Hi guys, this is Reggie D coming at you from a random guy's dorm. So it has been a while I've been posting a video, but I'll make it up to you, I promise. Today I'd like to talk about the ENFP and durable fulfillment, which is, for me personally, a very important topic, given I'm an ENFP and I had a lot of doubts and difficulties on how to lead my life and what to do with my life. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. The first idea or concept I want to talk about is finding out who you are, or rather who you are, is as much about self-definition as it is about discovery. There's a passive and an active aspect in finding out who you are. And ENFPs implicitly tend to assume that it's all about discovery, but it's also about self-definition. Right? Your talents, your interests, you do not choose them. You discover them. You uncover them. You are sometimes surprised by them. So it's true, there is a passive aspect in finding out who you are. But at least as much so, it is about actively self-defining. And the way you actualize your talents, that's the active part. There you have choices. First of all, on which talents you're going to focus most on. And second, which opportunities you're going to take to give these talents room for developing them into skills, strengths. A second very important concept for the development of the ENFP, and actually for everyone, is bet on your strengths. And that involves acknowledging that you are an ENFP. And what are your main strengths or talents, to be consistent with point number one. They are using the MBTI language, given that they are your main preferred cognitive functions: extroverted intuition and introverted feeling. Briefly, extroverted intuition is transcontextual thinking. It means you see patterns in context A that are, or you see similarities in patterns in context A and context B. So ENFPs are masters of making analogies, for example, and this is how we convey very complex information. We can use an analogy that everybody already understands, and we then point out the similarities with that very complex thing we try to explain. Introverted feeling is about being very attuned to the emotional glow of people, being very aware of how they feel, having very strong values as well, etc. Again, I'm not going to elaborate on that, but these two functions, if you are an ENFP, I suggest you develop these into massive strengths. Become a master of extroverted intuition and introverted feeling. Of course, it's good to mitigate your weaknesses, but don't let that be your main focus. Another thing concerning this is that ENFPs tend to be impressed quite rapidly. And we have a very unique set of cognitive preferences, and we tend to be impressed by people using other cognitive functions most of the time, and we get discouraged in the use of our preferred cognitive functions. And then there is a phase in our lives usually that we become this copycat, having not enough confidence in our own cognitive functions. We try to emulate thinkers, for example, and we can get pretty good at it, but we'll never do it with the same passion and in the same quantity as they do. And cognitive preference is not cognitive skill, but if you like to do something, you'll do more of it and you'll become better at it. So here again, I'd like to say, for the copycat ENFPs, the ENFPs that emulate other types, I'd say change your perspective. Know that you have a unique set of cognitive preferences that in some environment has the critical advantage. It's perhaps in your context generally viewed as a weakness, but look at it differently or change your context and leverage those cognitive preferences rather than being a copycat or try to overdo your your weaker cognitive functions, right? Think of the story about David and Goliath. So Goliath is this huge, very strong soldier. David is a meek, boyish man, but he has the courage to fight Goliath, the only one of the army who dares to fight Goliath. And at first they give him also the full armor of a soldier. So you have this boyish man in the full armor, which is obviously way too heavy for him. Why? Because that was the standard general way of thinking. He wants to fight a big guy, give him all the armor he can wear. But the assumption, of course, is that David would go sword fighting with Goliath, hand to hand. And the first thing David did was, when he entered the battle zone at some 50 yards, he just put off his armor. And everybody was like, hey, what are you doing? I mean, you see, the general way of thinking was, oh my God, leave that armor on. And suddenly he gets his sling, and from a distance, he uses his strength, namely his proficiency at slinging, and he hits Goliath in the head with a stone. Goliath is dead. So what I mean by this is, what you maybe today perceive as a disadvantage, it means you're perhaps still in the stage of being David in the heavy armor. Just change your perspective, leverage your critical advantage, and beat Goliath with your sling, right? A third concept is consistency. Very important for the ENFP. As you know, we have, as a judging function, feeling. And feeling, I believe, has two aspects. It has values and emotions. And both of them are, of course, related. The ENFP, certainly at the beginning of his development, tends to be quite whimsical in his choices, because he bases his choices, his behavior, his actions on these emotions that are kind of whimsical themselves. I don't talk about their values, I talk about their emotions. Discipline your emotions. Or at least don't discipline your emotions, but Discipline the choices. Discipline your behavior, your actions. Try to uncouple them a bit more, your emotions and your choices, actions, behavior. And make sure that your actions, your choices, your behavior are more principled. Become more principled in that sense. I think E.T. says that at the end of your feelings, there's nothing. You know, today I feel like this, tomorrow I feel like that. But at the end of every principle, there's a promise. You see? In that way. So, stick to your goals. Stick to your plan and follow through. And when you fail once, that's okay. You just get up again. And when you fail again, you just get up again. But leaving the game is really only your last option, not your first option. Learn to fail. Learn to fail and get up again. See it as part of the process. And when the chips are down, when it gets tough, don't get out to your other little option, your safe plan B. Stay in the game, take the shit, but follow through. Right? That was my third point. So ENFPs, we come at the end of this video. So we had self-definition versus discovery. Bet on your strengths, not your weaknesses, and consistency. I hope you got something out of this video. I hope you like it. If you have comments, suggestions, questions, whatever, put them in the comments below. I wish you a very good luck with the development of yourselves, and I see you next time. Bye. And to some of you commenters, I'm not gay, and it's